because of Jesus and our faith in Him and what He did for us, we can have eternal life and the ultimate crown and prize. And so, the Bible gives us a pretty good example of what faith and definition of faith, and that is in Hebrews 11. And we'll look at that in a moment. But, if you think about it, we have faith in a lot of different things. We will put our faith or our trust in some things that we basically, when we say faith, that we are trusting, when we put our faith in you, that we trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. When you go and somebody goes to a doctor and they tell you, you're hoping they're telling you the right thing. When they subscribe medicine to you and you go to a pharmacy to pick it up, you're hoping that the concoction they told you it's going to work for you. You're putting faith and trust that when you put that medicine in, that it's going to do your what it's supposed to. The other is restaurants. If you've got a restaurant that you go to and it's your favorite, the reason it's your favorite is that when you go and they make your favorite dish, it comes out really good. It comes out the way you expect it to. It comes out tasting the way you want. You leave the way you feel like you're supposed to leave when you eat it, and you go on about your way. But there are some people that have restaurants they don't trust. There are some people that they've got food that they will not put in their body because when they've eaten there, they do not feel well. I sent out a text to, we have a text chain during the week, and sent a text chain out for lunch. Say, hey, we good? Anybody want to do lunch today? I didn't have a lunch meeting. I had a free time. I said, throw it out to some buddies. Does anybody want to get some food? A couple people responded. And commercials have done good. Wingstop has promoted their chicken sandwich with their, you can get your favorite wing sauce on that wing. I like Wingstop. I like the French fries. So I throw out Wingstop. Two of my buddies said, I'm in. One of my buddies said, I'm in, but then he saw Wingstop and said, never mind. Because he's eaten there multiple times, and when he's gone, things did not work out well with his body and that meal. So his faith and trust in the stuff that he has eaten there, nothing against it. He says it's fine, but it just doesn't sit well with me. And unfortunately, sometimes the way folks look at Christians and how we put our faith into action sometimes leaves a bitter taste in people's minds or in their hearts or their thoughts because of how faith has been interacted. There's a reason people have bad church experiences. A lot of times it's because of me or us or our people, of how they experience what they experience because when you go to church, what do you expect? Some people do it because they get called on and they get asked to read and it scares them for other reasons. But it's important for us as believers to make sure when we have our faith, as folks of faith, that our faith produces fruit. Our faith produces what we believe in and who we believe in. So Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, as we look at faith, here's the definition in Hebrews. Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. And I will tell you, one of the words that's really kind of started resonating with me over probably the last 4 or 5 years about the walk with Christ and being in Jesus and having faith in Jesus is that word confidence and assurance. Because the whole thing about when you start walking and we start looking, if you want to, you can turn to Luke chapter 1. When we start looking and thinking about what faith is and what comes with it, and my favorite version of Blessed Assurance is Third Days, and Mac Powell and Blessed Assurance, is that this confidence that comes with the faith that we have in Jesus, That's why I think people, even though they had some doubts sometimes, and we hear Mary asking a question when the angel comes to visit her, and Zechariah when the angel comes to see him. They had some questions, but once they trusted Christ and they saw what he was doing, the reason they were willing to die on a sword, the reason they were willing to go into a lion's den, the reason they were able to go do these things is they were confident in who they served. They had enough confidence in knowing this God is telling me this. With that, I'm trusting him. And so I love that it says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. And so this morning, as we go to look, and we look at Luke chapter 1, and we're not going to read a whole lot of verses, but we're going to look in chapter 1 and how faith was important for the two couples involved in the Christmas story. We talk about Mary, did you know, and it's great, and Joseph, they were very important. But also we need to understand Zechariah and Elizabeth had a role in preparing the way for the Lord and letting us know Jesus is coming, and the role that they had in this story. And so as we look, the first thing that we see why faith is important in Luke chapter 1 and the comparisons that we see here. We'll look in Luke chapter 1, beginning in verse 5. In the time of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old. And if you flip over to Luke chapter 1, verse 26, it says, in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. The virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, greetings, you are highly favored. Highly favored, the Lord is with you. And if you look, Joseph also favored. And so when we start looking at how important faith is in this story, it says that they were found, both couples, both sets, to be found righteous. That means they weren't trying to go by faith at the store down on the end of the desert road and be sure they had faith. If you, let me know, I don't want to mess up this quote, but if you wait to have faith when you need it, it's going to be too late. If you wait to have faith when you need it, it's going to be too late. Because if you look at the faith, the fact that we see here in one of my favorite verses in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. We see these two similarities between Zechariah and Elizabeth and Mary and Joseph. And when the angel comes and tells them, hey, this is the journey you're about to go on. This is what's about to happen to you. They find them highly favored because they were blameless. They were walking with the Lord. It's very important because, and we'll get to it in a moment, this whole life we call a journey is going to come with a lot of things. So it's important that we walk and be walking with the Lord now, not when we need Him, not when we need to run and start finding that, that verse that we need right now. Because when those obstacles come, and we're going to get to that next, we need to be walking with the Lord. We need to be in a position to handle those things. For example, is it hard for my aunt and uncle to bury their daughter this week? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what gives them grace, gives them hope, is their faith was already being built up, walking with the Lord, leading into this obstacle. Does it make it easier? No. But is there comfort? Yes. That's why it's so important to have this faith. The faith didn't start when Mary and Joseph landed at the inn where there was no room in the manger. The faith, our faith and our walk with the Lord must be a daily walk, a daily relationship with Jesus Christ. Because if He is only on Sunday, you might as well just go to Chick-fil-A. And the reason I say that is, If this is the only time we get fed, that's a problem. If this is the only time we build up and work out our faith and grow and do our regimen of push-ups and sit-ups with the Bible and worship and prayer, if Sunday is the only time we do it, it's going to be hard when the times get tough. So faith is so important as we see of the training leading up to for these couples. The other thing, and I mentioned it, is that the reason faith is important because obstacles do come. Here, Zechariah, we get to see the first game of charades played. If you'll look in Luke chapter 1. So Luke, there in Luke, the angel comes and says, hey, guess what? Zechariah, Elizabeth, y'all are going to have a baby. And of course, and I've got it written down in my Bible, verse 18 says, Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man and my wife is well along in years. I've got smart man. He didn't call her no lady. He said, but my wife's a little older. She's a veteran. So in that, you've got these obstacles that are coming. They're going to have to deal with this. She's older in age and all these things that are the obstacles that are coming. Mary, same thing. Hey, tell you what, Mary, congratulations. You're highly favored. We're going to let you carry the Son of God. He's going to save the world. And she's like, okay, virgin. Not sure. I know you're probably aware of that. But not only was she a virgin, was she going to be with child, now she's got to deal with what society's going to look at her, and she's going to be totally different because now she's got a husband that's going to have to, hey, you remember all that engagement stuff we were doing? We registered over here at, I don't know, whatever they were registering at that time. We're going to have to put that on hold. We're going to have a baby. Oh, and he's going to be the Son of the world, Son of God. He's going to save the world. But all these obstacles that were coming for them, you're going to have to travel. I hear it can be difficult traveling with a pregnant lady. Can you imagine the 80-mile journey that they were going to have to go on? But obstacles were coming for both of these couples for different reasons. Society's going to look at Mary differently. They're going to look at Joseph differently. Joseph was ready to be nice and say, you know what? She's pregnant. I don't want to make her look bad, so I'll just divorce her quietly. And then the angel says, hey, no, it's good. Trust me on this. Put faith in the Lord that's telling you this journey's okay. But every single one of us have obstacles that we have to make a choice. When that obstacle comes in our life, what do we do with it? Because Mary and Joseph, Mary did you know, and all those things that we hear these songs, Mary and Joseph had to trust what the Lord was saying through this angel. This is what's going to happen. And even though the obstacles are going to come and circumstances may be difficult, because I have a hard time thinking that it was a fairy tale motion picture experience for Elizabeth and Zechariah. That it was a motion picture film, everything working out great every day for Joseph and Mary. Because you know what? They were still around people. And you and I are around people, even though we're on this journey. And that's the next word we're going to talk about in a moment. But the reason faith is important is when those obstacles come in life, we've got to be ready to know that the Lord that we trusted with our hope, the Lord that we trusted through faith, is still walking through and with us when those obstacles come. And so, age, frowned upon, all these things are taking place during these obstacles where faith was very important for Mary and Joseph and Zechariah and Elizabeth. And the other thing is that understand, even though we had two different babies being born, both of these journeys were important. Most people today think their journey isn't important because it's not as successful as somebody else's, or it doesn't look like somebody else's. Every one of us, our journeys are important. And every one of our journeys, even though they're different, they're very similar. Every journeys have the following. Mountain times, where it's fantastic. flat times where it just seems okay. And if we went around, even the folks today, the folks on YouTube, we've all had valleys. I guarantee it. The excitement of getting, hey, we're having a baby, Elizabeth and Zachariah, we've been waiting for years. I'm well along in years and we're having a baby. There's some excitement. I guarantee it, in that journey there were some valleys. For Mary and Joseph, mountains and valleys. Every single one of us, our journeys are important. And when it comes to faith and when it comes to people that see us and put in our faith in action, one of the things I wrote in my notes, have you ever noticed when you get diagnosed with something or somebody in your family gets diagnosed with something, how much of a medical expert you come? Not because you're smarter, but you hear all that terminology. And then you hear these things. But those journeys are important even when they're highs and when they're lows, because those journeys are going to help somebody down the road that they need you because of the journey you're on that you're able to help. I go back to 15 years ago, you would not have seen a divorce care in the country, much less at a church. But today you see them at churches. You know why? Because stuff happens. Obstacles happen. And there's people to help them through that journey. There's a reason there's a support group for those that battle cancer. There's a reason there's a support group that struggles with certain things. Our journeys are important. What John was called to do was important. To prepare the way for the Lord. What Mary and Joseph and Jesus was doing, obviously, very important. But we must understand that our journeys matter. And because of those journeys being highs and lows, it is very, very important that our faith stay intact. Because we've got to have a faith that gets us out of the boat like Peter. We've got to have a faith, because I really believe they didn't. We've got to have faith like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They didn't have faith in the heat. They had faith in the Lord. They didn't have faith in the heat that it was going to just not do anything. They had faith in the Lord. They had confidence and assurance in who they trusted. That's why they said, if we don't make it out, we're good. Our faith has got to do that when the obstacles come and the journey gets a struggle. Because when that happens, it's the example. Faith is this. Tony Evans says this, the preacher. Faith is acting like God is telling the truth. Faith is acting like God is telling the truth. And for us, when it comes to faith and it comes to the journey when it gets tough, our faith doesn't need to shake. There's a song by Cadence called My Faith is Like Shifting Sand. And sometimes it's easy for our faith to shift, to take our eyes off. Peter got out of the boat, but he also took his eyes off. And if you look at in Hebrews 11, they talk about all these people in the Old Testament. They were considered righteousness because of the faith that they followed and the faith that they put in the Lord. And we see all these people in the Hall of Honor in Hebrews. By faith, Eunuch. By faith, Abel. By faith, Noah. By faith, Abraham. All these folks that by faith they did these things. And I love after they give the Hall of Honor, even those they couldn't mention because there were so many, Hebrews 12 says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that sometimes so easily entangles us. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. And as we close, just like coaching, I stole some inbound plays from people. I'm going to steal an illustration from a buddy of mine that is about as good as I've seen. faith isn't always pretty and easy. If you ever go watch, or you go to Dairy Queen, or you go to someplace in Abilene, and you see a baseball team, or sometimes maybe a football team, and they're still wearing their jerseys and their uniforms. If you see a couple that are perfectly white, what's wrong with that? They didn't get to play. Never got in. But if you see the ones that are loaded down with dirt, maybe a blood stain on the knee pad, maybe a bandage, they're walking in, their hat's here, but they're having fun, they're eating or whatever, you know they got in. And he kept using the word dirty faith. And sometimes when we go and we have to play, and we have to get in the muck of that journey, or we have to battle an obstacle that we're going through. I think Mary and Joseph, it looked really pretty last week when Blake Shelton sang the song. They looked real like the best hospital room they had in the manger area. But it gets dirty sometimes. And we've got to be the type of people that we may need to get dirty sometimes with our faith. Step out. Get out of the boat. Climb up the tree. Take that risk, that leaning on God, and our faith produces fruit. That's what this faith is about, is our faith has got to be an action that produces people when they see us point back to Jesus. No matter the obstacle, no matter the journey. But if all we do is stay real nice, white with our baseball uniform, and never get a little dirty, we miss blessings. So this morning, I challenge us as we move forward, and I know I've gone a little long, is that our faith produce and look like we trust and believe. Hey, hit play. That doesn't bother me. Go ahead. You can hit play. That's fine. Our faith should look like that. There are going to be people this week, and I'm going to tell you, and Brian asked this, on December 23rd, we have our Christmas Eve service. That's a place to invite. Nothing to do at 5:30. Invite folks for that. We're going to take the Lord's Supper. We're going to do a candlelight service. Will you something I can do better than that? But this is the time as Christians. We have two times where people that are hopeless look. It's Christmas and it's Easter. There are people in this town that have no hope. This needs to be the place they find it and see it. Just as I am, no matter how dirty I am, come on. And that dirty faith doesn't mean go do things and get dirty outside of the things of the world. It means being willing to maybe step out and do things that are different, out of your comfort zone. Do you know Jesus? I'm going through living blank, but I'm trusting Jesus. Things are great right now. I'm trusting Jesus. That's what faith does when it's put into action. We have hope. We have faith. And with those two, we're redeemed. And so you can stand if you want to come, if you need to do anything. But that's my challenge today, is that our faith move us to something different. Our faith makes us different because He lives inside of us.